Podcast designed to help you fall asleep. On Snoozecast, we read excerpts from public domain works and occasionally original stories. Listen to us on snoozecast.com, like our Facebook page, and follow us on Spotify and Instagram. We'd like to thank our listeners. If you enjoy our show, please write us a review on the Apple Podcasts app or wherever you listen. Also, share it with a friend. This episode is supported by Fuzzy Blankets. Tonight, by listener request, we'll be reading the second part to The Princess and the Goblin, a children's fantasy novel published in 1872. One of the most successful and beloved of Victorian fairy tales, George MacDonald's The Princess and the Goblin tells the story of young Princess Irene and her friend Gertie, who must outwit the threatening goblins who live in caves beneath her mountain home. When we left off, the little princess found herself lost in a labyrinth of halls and rooms. She then is introduced to a beautiful, kind, and strange old woman sitting at a yarn spinning wheel. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. While the princess stared bewildered, with her head just inside the door, the old lady lifted hers and said, in a sweet but old and rather shaky voice, which mingled very pleasantly with the continued hum of her wheel, "Come in, my dear, come in. I am glad to see you." That the princess was a real princess you might see now quite plainly, for she didn't hang on the handle of the door and stare without moving, as I have known some do, who ought to have been princesses, but were only rather vulgar little girls. She did as she was told, stepped inside the door at once, and shut it gently behind her. "Come to me, my dear," said the old lady. And again the princess did as she was told. She approached the old lady, rather slowly, I confess, but did not stop until she stood by her side and looked up in her face with her blue eyes and the two melted stars in them. "Why, what have you been doing with your eyes, child?" asked the old lady. "Crying," answered the princess. "Why, child?" "Because I couldn't find my way down again." "But you could find your way up." "Not at first, not for a long time." "But your face is streaked like the back of a zebra. Hadn't you a handkerchief to wipe your eyes with?" "No." Then why didn't you come to me to wipe them for you? Please, I didn't know you were here. I will next time. Well, there's a good child, said the old lady. Then she stopped her wheel and rose, and, going out of the room, returned with a little silver basin and a soft white towel, with which she washed and wiped the bright little face. And the princess thought her hands were so smooth and nice. When she carried away the basin and towel, the little princess wondered to see how straight and tall she was, for, although she was old, she didn't stoop a bit. She was dressed in black velvet, with thick, white, heavy-looking lace about it, and on the black dress her hair shone like silver. There was hardly any more furniture in the room than there might have been in that of the poorest old woman who made her bread by her spinning. There was no carpet on the floor, no table anywhere, nothing but the spinning wheel and the chair beside it. When she came back, she sat down and without a word began her spinning once more, while Irene, who had never seen a spinning wheel, stood by her side and looked on. When the old lady had got her thread fairly going again, she said to the princess, but without looking at her, "Do you know my name, child?" "No, I don't know it," answered the princess. "My name is Irene." "That's my name," cried the princess. "I know that. I let you have mine. I haven't got your name. You've got mine." "How can that be?" asked the princess, bewildered. "I've always had my name. Your papa, the king, asked me if I had any objection to you having it, and of course I hadn't. I let you have it with pleasure." "Well, it was very kind of you to give me your name, and such a pretty one," said the princess. "Oh, not so very kind," said the old lady. "A name is one of those things one can give away and keep all the same. I have a good many such things. Wouldn't you like to know who I am, child?" Yes, that I should, very much." "I'm your great-great-grandmother," said the lady. "What's that?" asked the princess. "I'm your father's mother's father's mother." "Oh dear, I can't understand that," said the princess. "I dare say not. I didn't expect you would, but that's no reason why I shouldn't say it." "Oh no," answered the princess. "I will explain it all to you when you are older," the lady went on. "But you will be able to understand this much now. I came here to take care of you." "Is it long since you came? Was it yesterday? Or was it today, because it was so wet that I couldn't get out?" "I've been here ever since you came yourself." "Oh, what a long time," said the princess. "I don't remember it at all." "No, I suppose not." "But I never saw you before." "No, but you shall see me again." "Do you live in this room always?" "I don't sleep in it. I sleep on the opposite side of the landing. I sit here most of the day. I shouldn't like it. My nursery is much prettier. You must be a queen too if you are my great big grandmother. Yes, I am a queen. Where's your crown then? In my bedroom. I should like to see it. You shall someday, not today. I wonder why Nursey never told me. Nursey doesn't know. She never saw me. But somebody knows that you're in the house. No, nobody. How do you get your dinner then? Oh, I keep poultry of a sort. Where do you keep them? I will show you. And who makes the chicken broth for you? I never kill any of my chickens. Then I can't understand. What did you have for breakfast this morning? Asked the lady. Oh, I had bread and milk and an egg. I dare say you eat their eggs. Yes, that's it. I eat their eggs. Is that what makes your hair so white? No, my dear, it's old age. I am very old. I thought so. Are you 50? Yes, more than that. Are you 100? Yes, more than that. I am too old for you to guess. Come and see my chickens. Again she stopped her spinning. She rose, took the princess by the hand, led her out of the room, and opened the opposite door to the stair. The princess expected to see a lot of hens and chickens, but instead of that, she saw the blue sky first, and then the roofs of the house, with a multitude of the loveliest pigeons, mostly white, but of all colors, walking about, making bows to each other, and talking a language she could not understand. She clapped her hands with delight, and up rose such a flapping of wings that she, in her turn, was startled. You frightened my poultry, said the old lady, smiling. And they frightened me, said the princess, smiling too. But what very nice poultry. Are the eggs nice? Yes, very nice. What a small egg spoon you must have. Wouldn't it be better to keep hens and get bigger eggs? Oh, how should I feed them, though? I see, said the princess. The pigeons feed themselves. They've got wings. Just so. If they couldn't fly, I couldn't eat their eggs. But how do you get at the eggs? Where are the nests? The lady took hold of a little loop of string in the wall at the side of the door and, lifting a shutter, showed a great many pigeonholes with nests, some with young ones, and some with eggs in them. The birds came in at the other side, and she took out the eggs on this side. She closed it again quickly, lest the young ones should be frightened. Oh, what a nice way, cried the princess. Will you give me an egg to eat? I'm rather hungry. I will some day, but now you must go back, or Nursey will be miserable about you. I dare say she's looking for you everywhere. Except here, answered the princess. Oh, how surprised she will be when I tell her about my great big great-grandmother. Yes, she will be, said the old lady with a curious smile. Mind you tell her all about it, exactly. That I will. Please, will you take me back to her? I can't go all the way, but I will take you to the top of the stair, and then you must run down quite fast into your own room. The little princess put her hand in the old lady's who, looking this way and that, brought her to the top of the first stair, and thence to the bottom of the second, and did not leave her till she saw her halfway down the third. When she heard the cry of her nurse's pleasure at finding her, she turned and walked up the stairs again, very fast indeed for such a very great grandmother, and sat down to her spinning with another strange smile on her sweet old face. About this spinning of hers I will tell you more another time. Guess what she was spinning. Chapter 4. What the nurse thought of it. "Why, where can you have been, princess?" asked the nurse, taking her in her arms. "It's very unkind of you to hide away so long. I began to be afraid." Here she checked herself. "What were you afraid of, nursie?" asked the princess. "Never mind," she answered. "Perhaps I will tell you another day. Now, tell me where you've been." "I've been up a long way to see my very great, huge, old grandmother," said the princess. "What do you mean by that?" asked the nurse, who thought she was making fun. "I mean that I've been a long way up, and to see my great-grandmother. Oh, nursie, you don't know what a beautiful mother of grandmothers I've got upstairs. She is such an old lady with such lovely white hair, as white as my silver cup. Now, when I think of it, I think her hair must be silver." "What nonsense you are talking, princess," said the nurse. "I'm not talking nonsense," returned Irene, rather offended. "I'll tell you all about her. She's much taller than you, and much prettier." "Oh, I dare say," remarked the nurse. "And she lives upon pigeons' eggs." "Most likely," said the nurse. "And she sits in an empty room, spinning all day long." "Not a doubt of it," said the nurse. "And she keeps her crown in her bedroom." "Of course, quite the proper place to keep her crown in. She wears it in bed, I'll be bound." "Well, she didn't say that, and I don't think she does. That wouldn't be comfortable, would it? I don't think my papa wears his crown for a nightcap. Does he, nursie?" "I never asked him. I dare say he does." "And she's been there ever since I came here, ever so many years." "Well, anybody could have told you that," said the nurse, who did not believe a word Irene was saying. "Why didn't you tell me then?" "There was no necessity. You could make it all up for yourself." "You don't believe me, then?" exclaimed the princess, astonished and angry, as she well might be. "Did you expect me to believe you, princess?" asked the nurse coldly. "I know princesses are in the habit of telling make-believes, but you are the first I ever heard of who expected to have them believed," she added, seeing that the child was strangely in earnest. The princess burst into tears. "Well, I must say," remarked the nurse, now thoroughly vexed with her for crying, "it is not at all becoming in a princess to tell stories and expect to be believed just because she's a princess. But it's quite true, I tell you." "You've dreamt it then, child." "No, I didn't dream it. I went upstairs and I lost myself, and if I hadn't found the beautiful lady, I should never have found myself. Oh, I dare say. Well, you just come up with me and see if I'm not telling the truth. Indeed, I have other work to do. It's your dinner time, and I won't have any more of such nonsense. The princess wiped her eyes, and her face grew so hot that they were soon quite dry. She sat down to her dinner, but ate next to nothing. Not to be believed does not at all agree with princesses, for a real princess cannot tell a lie. So all the afternoon she did not speak a word. Only when the nurse spoke to her, she answered her, for a real princess is never rude, even when she does well to be offended. Of course, the nurse was not comfortable in her mind. Not that she suspected the least truth in Irene's story, but that she loved her dearly and was vexed with herself for having been cross to her. She thought her crossness was the cause of the princess's unhappiness, and had no idea that she was really and deeply hurt at not being believed. But as it became more and more plain during the evening in her every motion and look that, although she tried to amuse herself with her toys, her heart was too vexed and troubled to enjoy them. Her nurse's discomfort grew and grew. When bedtime came, she undressed and laid her down, but the child, instead of holding up her little mouth to be kissed, turned away from her and lay still. Then Nursie's heart gave way altogether, and she began to cry. At the sound of her first sob, the princess turned again and held her face to kiss her as usual. But the nurse had her handkerchief to her eyes and did not see the movement. "Nursie," said the princess, "why won't you believe me?" "Because I can't believe you," said the nurse, getting angry again. "Oh, then you can't help it," said Irene, "and I'll not be vexed with you any more. I'll give you a kiss and go to sleep." "You little angel," cried the nurse, and caught her out of bed and walked about the room with her in her arms, kissing and hugging her. "You will let me take you to see my dear old great big grandmother, won't you?" said the princess as she laid her down again. "And you won't say I'm ugly any more, will you, princess?" "Nursie, I never said you were ugly. What can you mean?" "Well, if you didn't say it, you meant it." "Indeed, I never did." "You said I wasn't so pretty as that." "Oh, as my beautiful grandmother. Yes, I did say that, and I say it again, for it's quite true." "Then I do think you are unkind," said the nurse, and put her handkerchief to her eyes again. "Nursie, dear, everybody can't be as beautiful as every other body, you know. You are very nice looking, but if you had been as beautiful as my grandmother—" "Bother your grandmother," said the nurse. "Nurse, that's very rude. You are not fit to be spoken to till you can behave better." The princess turned away once more, and again the nurse was ashamed of herself. "I'm sure I beg your pardon, princess," she said, though she still had an offended tone. But the princess let the tone pass and heeded only the words. "You won't say it again, I'm sure," she answered, once more turning toward her nurse. "I was only going to say that if you had been twice as nice looking as you are, some king or other would have married you, and then what would have become of me?" "You are an angel," repeated the nurse, again embracing her. "Now," insisted Irene, "you will come and see my grandmother, won't you?" "I will go with you anywhere you like, my cherub," she answered, and in 2 minutes the weary little princess was fast asleep. Chapter 5. The princess lets well alone. When she woke the next morning, the first thing she heard was the rain still falling. Indeed, this day was so like the last that it would have been difficult to tell where was the use of it. The first thing she thought of, however, was not the rain, but the lady in the tower, and the first question that occupied her thoughts was whether she should not ask the nurse to fulfill her promise this very morning and go with her to find her grandmother as soon as she had had her breakfast. But she came to the conclusion that perhaps the lady would not be pleased if she took anyone to see her without first asking leave, especially as it was pretty evident, seeing she lived on pigeons' eggs and cooked them herself, that she did not want the household to know she was there. So the princess resolved to take the first opportunity of running up alone and asking whether she might bring her nurse. She believed the fact that she could not otherwise convince her she was telling the truth would have much weight with her grandmother. The princess and her nurse were the best of friends all dressing time, and the princess, in consequence, ate an enormous little breakfast. "I wonder, Ludi," for that was her pet name for her nurse, "what pigeons' eggs taste like," she said as she was eating her egg, not quite a common one, for they always picked out the pinky ones for her. "We'll get you a pigeon's egg, and you shall judge for yourself," said the nurse. "Oh, no, no," returned Irene, suddenly reflecting they might disturb the old lady in getting it, and that even if they did not, she would have one less in consequence. "What a strange creature you are," said the nurse. "First to want a thing, and then to refuse it." But she did not say it crossly, and the princess never minded any remarks that were not unfriendly. "Well, you see, Ludi, there are reasons," she returned, and said no more, for she did not want to bring up the subject of their former strife, lest her nurse should offer to go before she had had her grandmother's permission to bring her. Of course, she could refuse to take her, but then she would believe her less than ever. Now the nurse, as she said herself afterwards, could not be every moment in the room, and as never before yesterday had the princess given her the smallest reason for anxiety. had not yet come into her head to watch her more closely, so she soon gave her a chance, and the very first that offered, Irene was off and up the stairs again.